What's up, everyone? How you doing? Thanks for joining us today on Live to Roll, another edition of Rollin Over the Hill, sponsored by mobility professionals and urology professionals. Today, we're going to be discussing losing confidence after aging with a spinal cord injury. We'll be joined by a special guest, and as always, we appreciate your participation through the comments, and it always kind of helps us uh, move forward with what you want to know and any interjections that you want to might have on that. So let's get started. My name is Robert Soto. I'm a T12 motorcycle racing injury back in 1974 when I was young and immortal. It's kind of been a long time. I'm closing in on 49 years post injury, so time sure does fly, and coming across a lot of challenges later in my life. So, without any further delay, let's get into it. Here's Bobby, my co-host. What's going on, Bobby?
Hey, thanks a lot, Robert. Whoa, is there a echo here? All right. Hopefully that's better. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition. Glad you could join us. First, I want to give a shout out to Tom last night. He was live with his gaming. So if you want to check out Tom from our live stream, he was playing Fortnite last night. It was pretty interesting. Not I don't know what the heck was going on. I mean, I remember Pac-Man, and that's about it. So, but looked like he had a lot of fun. So I'm Bobby Rohan, C5, C6 quadriplegic. I was hurt when I was young, just like Robert, except when I got hurt, Robert was just 1 year into his accident. Or actually when I was born. So I was
Yeah.
born in 71. Robert, you were in
Oh man.
1970, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That,
Oh
that
my
that affects the confidence there.
God. But I was hurt 33 years ago from a cycling accident. And let's move it over. We've been wanting to get him on one of our shows for many, many months or years now. But our guest for today, Dean Maccabe. Take it away, Dean.
Hey, how's it going, you guys? Yeah, so I'm Dean McCabe, and I broke my neck cliff diving back in 1982. So that was 40 years ago? Yeah, about 40
Yeah.
years ago. So,
So yeah, it
uh,
was like Robert's 40 or 50 almost. You're 40. I'm just a few years over 30.
yeah, and
120
I
plus
got
years
hurt.
experience.
Yeah, that's a long
Yeah.
time.
That
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. We got a lot of
Did
years
I did
together
I
here, guys.
did I mention I got hurt when I was 4 though?
Yeah. That's it.
So
That's it.
I'm a little older than
A little
that.
bit.
So as you can tell with
Yeah.
all that gray hair.
Hey,
Yeah.
at
You
least
still
you
got
got
that.
great.
You still got a good hairline. I'll take it.
Unlike some people.
Uh,
Uh,
So I'm glad you guys wanted me to come on today. I'm excited to be here. I know you guys do a lot of these programs. I guess I fit in on this old timers program here. So I'd love to interact with anybody. If anybody has questions about aging with a spinal cord injury, I mean, we have three guys here that have been doing it for a long time. So
Yep.
ask
Yep.
away.
Well, I'll
absolutely.
tell you, Bobby and I have been talking about different topics for the program, and so the one we're discussing today is the confidence piece as we age with the injury, and that's kind of close to where I'm at right now. When I first got hurt, you're young, you're resilient, and you're just kind of a little fearless and all that. So I really didn't have any problems with confidence. You're just kind of going for it, and trial and error. You fall, you can get up, and you have therapists around you, all that stuff. So as life went on, I really didn't think much about what I was doing. It got to be pretty much instinctive, just in terms of what my transfers were and all that. But as the years crept on, and up until recently, maybe within the past year, I've really been struggling with my own confidence, primarily with getting in and out of my truck. And in the past years, I mean, I've fallen here and there, but it's no big deal. I've always been able to get up. But nowadays, I can't get up. It's not that easy to get. My arms aren't as strong as they used to be with all the damage and things like that. So, uh, and I have a problem with not having that confidence in me, because if you're not giving it 100%, moving forward, I think that's when it's detrimental to you in terms of if you're a little hesitant on that piece. So I do it, I mean, I can still stand up and get into my truck, but it's not as smooth. It's not looking pretty, but I can do it. But I kind of stress on it, and some days are better than others. It just depends on how I feel, how much sleep I get, if I slept good, and all that. So that's why we kind of want to see how what you guys are feeling, and see any of the viewers out there, and kind of let them know just if they have that issue, what they're doing for it, because the articles that I've read in the past few days are, you really just got to buck up and get to it and stuff like that. But it's not that easy. And I'm not talking about self-esteem. I'm just talking about the confidence of doing a particular function. My transfers, okay, they're not as good as they used to be. I can still do them, but the safety factor isn't as bad as me when I feel I'm standing up. And it's just like for me, I have this thing about when the ground is wet and rain. I have crutches that have chips on the bottom of it for anti-slip and all that. But in my head, the ground is wet; it's slippery no matter what. And that again, that plays against me as well. So just kind of want to share that and see if there's any other factors that people have in the same experiencing the same thing, or if you guys are. So the thing comes down to is why does confidence matter? And that's kind of what we're working on today, and how it can help for you to overcome that lack of confidence as we age.
Well, for myself, Robert, I've been feeling like lately that fear and my confidence of, being stable in the chair that I'm in, in the sense that, now when I'm going over those cracks in the sidewalk, and we were out of town a couple of weeks ago in San Diego, you're not in your same environment. And back in, when I was younger, it was like, yeah, no problem, push in, you watch for the cracks and but now I'm like, the fear of the crack is a fear of falling for me, not being so stable in my chair, or, the sidewalk's kind of slanting, and one wrong slip, I just have this fear of just like, going right off the curb, that my chair would just take me there. And it's just like, whoa, and nervous, like to a point where I've never used a seatbelt, but I'm almost thinking, should I get a seatbelt? Yeah. My spasms are a little bit more. So if, a foot falls off and something happened, I don't want to fall. And so I'm having this fear of falling a little bit. And I think, confidence matters, because I don't want my independence taken away like anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
I think having that confidence that I'm not going to fall, would help. I mean, I know what to do in this situation. Either invest in a seatbelt, or kind of like Dean and I, we used to go down to the beach right after COVID and try to stay in shape. We didn't do a good job. We, probably looked at the ladies a little bit too often, and our speed wasn't there. But we would push along, and I'd always use that weight belt, Dean. But I feel like maybe when I'm not in my or out of my environment, like when I was in San Diego, maybe be a good idea to wear something like that. So my confidence still there when I'm on the sidewalks and streets around San Diego.
I think, Bobby, you mentioned putting a seatbelt on, right? So as we age with our disability, things change, right? Maybe in the beginning, when we were younger and stronger and faster and better looking, we didn't need any adaptation to our wheelchairs to make us feel safe and confident about being out in public. Well, nowadays, as we're aging, I'll be the first to admit I'm not the man I used to be. You could ask my wife. That's the old joke. She'll agree. But I know in the next couple of years here, I'm gonna need to go to probably some power assist wheels, or a smart drive, or something like that. That's gonna help enhance my life, right? And Bobby, with you, if I know who you are and I know how you feel. And I know trying to get over that barrier of putting a seatbelt on your chair is going to be difficult for you in your mind. And sometimes we get to the point where we can paralyze ourselves more with fear of the unknown,
Yeah.
and then we don't do things that we should be doing, like getting out in public and doing activities. If you can throw a seatbelt on your chair and you feel comfortable about going out and doing your ADLs, doing your activities, then by all means, you need to try and figure out a way how to get past that stigma of feeling bad or feeling any less of a person because you need that seatbelt, right?
Yeah.
I'm the same way. Um, now I got to ask for more help doing
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
You
I
know,
agree.
when I was younger, I was traveling all over the world playing wheelchair rugby with Team USA. I was strong, I was fast, I was completely independent. Now that I'm aging with my disability, I'm not as independent as I wish I was. Um, so I need help. And that was one of the biggest challenges of my life, of aging with my disability, is realizing that I can't do the things I used to do like I did in the past, and understanding that's okay. That's part of life, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. Let's try and move on and figure out how I can still live a good life, a good productive life, a good meaningful life. And if that means I need to ask somebody for help to do things, like getting something out of my car or having one of my kids help push me up a hill, that's fine. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
and that.
we-
Go ahead, Robert.
okay. Well, that's well said too. But here's the thing. So it's easier said, yeah, and I totally agree with asking for help now. I don't have a problem with that, and if I need some other type of device or anything like to help me, but it's easier said. So yeah, I need to get my confidence because I think it's my safety uh, aspect of it, being safe and not getting hurt anymore, that kind of overrides me. I can be as confident as I want one day, feeling really good and good rest and all that, and I'll still think about, okay, I got to stand up, I got to do this, and it's not going to take much for me if I do bail again. My arms are already all tweaked and torn and all that, so I just don't want to have anything else more happen to them. And I get the whole piece about transitioning, uh, time to accept change and all that, but I have no problem with anything else that I'm doing and transitioning with, other than that standing piece, and it's just really jacking with my head nowadays. There's some days where I go, man, oh, and I kind of worry about it. I never used to even think about that, you know?
So
And
Robert, maybe nowadays you need to think about transitioning into a different vehicle. I mean, you
well,
got a really cool truck. It's all lowered. It's a really bitchin' truck. But maybe nowadays you need to look at transitioning into another vehicle, another cool vehicle that you
yeah,
might be able not to have to stand up to get in. You
yeah,
know,
and I agree with you. I've been thinking about that, but it's also the fact too that because I can still stand up and um, that's something I don't know why it still matters so much to me, but I I uh, I think if let's say I got the van with a ramp or whatever like that, it's going to eliminate. I mean, I'm not going to need to stand that much. And so little by little, I'll lose that standing ability, but its
But
safety aspect is more important.
and maybe that's where you do that, that standing mobility at the house so you don't lose some of it. So maybe
Yeah,
take 5 minutes to say, all right, I'm going to stand myself up like if I was going to my truck
yeah,
and then sit down. And it's nice then that standing, when you do it, I know your sister is over at your house a lot. So
yeah,
now you have somebody just there just in case. And
yeah,
that builds the confidence to not lose it as much. Obviously when I pushed in San Diego by myself, I was a lot more nervous about it. But then
yeah,
when my wife was next to me or our friends were next to me, it's like, okay, at least I know I can rely on them a little bit more. And as well as that's what we do once we're starting to get older. Dean's mentioned it. it's nice, Dina, Robert and I don't have the young boy and daughter, son and daughter that are at that age that can help you with, not that they want to, but they can help you with about 100% of your needs if you really need it, except maybe some of the personal care, but the heavy lifting stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you said the word nervous, and I think that's mine's not. It's a little bit of fear, maybe, but I think it's more the nervous thing that I'm gonna have that I stand up. I do it. I mean, I'll like the other morning. I was at church and I come back to the park because I'm more aware of my parking spaces now, that they're smoother, that there's no cracks. I mean, because that has a lot to do with I need something level. I can't be all unbalanced in my day. Some days I'm good with balance, some days I'm not, strength or whatever. But I think that's the word that I'm not using, but it's nervous. I'm nervous about getting back up sometimes, and that lack of confidence. If I'm not concentrating and fully into my commitment to it, and you're fearful of it, that sometimes you get hurt doing something like that.
Yeah.
So Robert, that's where, Robert, so that's where the whole balancing act comes into play. Trying to balance your life and figure out what is going to work best for me, where I'm not going to be hindered. Because, Robert, if you're worried about falling all the time, you're going to start not wanting to go out as much.
Exactly.
You're going to want to not do things.
Yep.
So if you can figure out a way to mentally understand that your needs are changing,
yes,
and the technology is out there to help you change in a safe manner by maybe getting a vehicle, and it doesn't have to be a van with a lift, it could be a cool SUV with a lift and stuff, or a ramp and stuff.
Yeah.
And transition into that, you're going to feel more comfortable going out and doing things, right?
Yeah.
And I know you're an active guy. You want to get out and you want to socialize. I don't see you just sitting around. But if you're starting to have issues with, maybe I don't want to go on this trip or go to this place because I'm afraid that I might fall.
Yeah.
Then mentally trying to figure out, you going through this transition of, okay, I got to get rid of the cool truck and maybe go with a cool little SUV with a ramp or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been there, right? I transitioned into a van. My van doesn't have a lift or anything, right? I transfer up on the driver's seat and I pull my chair in behind me. But it is a minivan. And many, 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 many years ago when I started working for Rojo, I needed a bigger vehicle. I always drove a cool car. I always drove a cool hot rod or, a cool SUV.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to mentally get past that. Okay, now I need a minivan because I can carry more stuff in it. I can carry my work stuff. I can carry my hand cycle, stuff like that. And that was my biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Trying to transition into that minivan.
And we talked about that, in I think one of our previous episodes. Change is very hard. It doesn't matter if you're disabled or if you're able-bodied. When we're getting old, we do not like to lose independence and change. Going through with my parents right now, they do not want to lose their independence. They're being so stubborn, and I know we're going to be that way. And Dean, one day when someone says your wife's be like, you better put on some emotion wheels or some power assist wheels, or I want you in a power chair. You're going to be like, no.
Yeah.
I like I like my style. So change is very hard for us, and to get over that hurdle, it's really hard. I just want to say a quick shout out to those in our chat real quick before we move on. We got Andrew. What's up, Andrew? I know he was talking about not having family around and his self-confidence is down sometimes. Carla, we got Dominic. He says, you really look good, especially you, Dean. So, and we had Cindy. Sean's in the background. Cindy, Sean is hosting this. He's too young to get on our show yet. So when he hits 25, no, I'm kidding. We got Sarab in the house. Roy, what's up, Roy? And we got Paul. Hey, Paul, up from Canada, and Renee. So welcome, everyone. And I think, go ahead, Robert, if you have anything else to say.
Well, the thing is, like I said, I've been reading a few things on it. I mean, I don't, I know how I feel and all that. Again, it's just getting a little more of a issue to me. Like I said, I still get out. I'm still getting out and doing things like that. It's just that the worrying aspect of it, and like Dean said, I don't want to, uh, forfeit any mobility because of what I'm thinking or what I've been going through the last few months, last year, or whatever it is. Like I said, I've fallen before, and it's no big deal. I mean, I just that I don't get up anymore, and that's the problem. I can't get up, and even like uh, um, the getting enough rest, because the days that I feel excellent and I'm on all full of energy and all eager to go, I get a good night's sleep. Now another factor is because I'm not sleeping so much as I used to, or not sleeping as well as I used to. So there's a lot of factors, but I the things I've been reading on is just overcoming and getting back into that confident piece. But everything I read, yeah, it makes sense and everything like that. But it's so much harder. It's easier to read and say it than do it. And I'm just looking to maintain my mobility. And yeah, I don't think I have a problem with making a transition to a different vehicle if I had to, but I shouldn't have to right now because I am still able to stand up. It's my head.
And
It's my thought process about it.
and I'll tell you that's one of the biggest factors for all of us. Sometimes we have somebody in our head telling us that we should be able to do this, but oh my gosh, I don't feel as confident in trying
Yeah,
to do this.
exactly.
Um, and I'm just like you, Robert. I've fallen out of my chair many a times. I played wheelchair rugby for Team USA and in the Paralympics and stuff, and been knocked out of my chair and knocked over so many times, and never hurt myself. A couple of stitches here and there, and a couple little broken bones. But now that I'm older, um, I can't. I can't
Yeah.
get back into my chair. It's really, really difficult. If I had to, I could probably do it, but it's really, really difficult. I fell out of my chair a few nights ago, loading something into my van, and luckily enough, I had my Apple Watch on, right? And I was able
Mhm.
to call my daughter, or yeah, call my daughter who was in the house. Hey, get your brother, come out here and help me get up. So luckily enough, I was able to do that. But when it comes to the confidence building, so there are a lot of different techniques that I've learned um, playing wheelchair rugby, training at the Olympic training centers, um, about building confidence. And for me, I'm a very goal orientated individual.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
truly believe in you need to set goals for yourself. If you set goals, realistic, obtainable goals for yourself, and you achieve those goals, right, you're going
yeah,
to feel better about yourself. And
yeah,
that will help bring the confidence back up. For me, you know, some realistic goals that I have nowadays is just to get out in the morning. I drop my son off at school and I get out in the morning and I'll push 2 miles in my neighborhood. And Bobby, let me tell you, I'm a little more stressed nowadays when I'm pushing through my neighborhood because my balance is not the same as it used to be. My
Yeah.
strength is not the same as it used to be,
yeah. The strength is a big piece.
right?
And
We,
I
we
think,
were,
yeah, and I think that's what got me in San Diego. And I think somebody said it too about their balance. Paul said it, his fear of falling and getting hurt because he said his balance isn't the same. And, when that's definitely fearful. And I know compared to what we were pushing, 2 years ago, it seemed like, compared to what it is today, it has changed dramatically in the sense of, having
but
that self confidence. And
But Bobby, let me also add this. You've been going through a lot in your life lately,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
that affects it too. That affects our mental
Oh,
status
absolutely.
too.
Because it brought one, it brought it down because I wasn't doing it as often, meaning being out on the street or, out in the open, going to the store as often as I used to. And then two, just strength wise, when you're down a little bit, man, that, you lose confidence because your strength is down. And then all of a sudden I get back in my chair and I'm like, I want to be old Bobby, but it's
Yeah.
not going to happen overnight. I got to start building it up and being in the chair a lot longer, and then going to venture maybe around my neighborhood to where, because my neighborhood, I know it, but it's just as long as it's smooth and I don't have any of those cracks, it's okay.
And it's your comfort zone there. I mean, you kind of, you're familiar with it. For me, I'd like to know, parking and all that kind of stuff. For me, I mean, again, that parking space, uh, I have more preference now on what I need to, when I do park, to help me be more confident when I stand up. And that's all. That limitation for me is kind of making. I mean, I can push around the chair. Okay, everything else I do fine. It's that one piece. And again, the strength. Yeah, I've accepted the strength piece, just getting weaker, and using power assist and things like that. I'm good with that. It's just this one factor in my life right now that's affecting me, and it's not good for me. It's not healthy for me, and that's what's really bothering me now. And I don't know why it's happening. I mean, there's nothing in my life that made me start thinking this way. It's just all of a sudden it's a gradual thing, and um, I don't know. It's puzzling to me. And like I said, I've had 49 years or whatever it is of battling and overcoming things like that, and this is something that just starting to really jack with me now.
Well, I
Well,
was thinking, Robert, kind of like what Dean said, and that goal oriented. And I just started doing this where at the beginning, when I first learned to push in my manual chair, I started at the mall. And the reason why I started at the mall, because it's flat. It's easy to get around. I don't have to
Yep.
worry about cracks and sidewalks and curb cutouts and all that. So that's where I started. So, whenever I have gotten sick in the past, like one time I broke my femur really bad where I was not in my chair for a while. And then to come back, how I always come back is I start back at my basics of that goal. Start simple to build it up to where I was. And so starting back at the mall was I just started a couple days ago, to where just go to the mall and get a little push out to where I'm going to get that confidence going all the way to being in San Diego and not as nervous. And I'm fine nowadays. I'm starting to accept, and Dean and I are working on getting some power assist to my manual stuff, and also getting to where might not look like a seatbelt, but I don't mind putting on my weight belt and going around San Diego and people just seeing a weight belt. That doesn't
Yeah.
bother me as much as maybe like a seatbelt that looks like, ooh, I got my granny seatbelt on. But, you know, I
Oh,
don't,
don't be dissing a seatbelt.
I
But
know.
Bobby,
Yeah.
let me add this.
Hmm.
So you came up with your realistic goal, right?
Yeah.
That was a realistic goal for you to go back to that mall and be able to push around there. So that helped you obtain your goal, right? And that's sometimes people have a problem of not making goals realistic. One other thing I wanted to address real quick is also, our bodies are changing, right? Our
Yeah. Yeah.
seating and our positioning is changing constantly over time too. So sometimes, and it's really, really hard for us old guys in chairs to change things up, but sometimes we might need different products or a different way of sitting in our chair. I see it all the time. Um, you know, Somebody sitting on a low profile rojo, it's worked for 20 years, but now that person is having a little more issues. And I'm sort of describing myself because 20 years ago I had more muscle on my butt.
Yeah.
Now I've
Yeah.
atrophied. So now I'm sitting on a mid profile. Uh, Eventually I'll probably be sitting on a higher profile. Using Maybe looking at a chair that has another backrest that gives you a little more lateral support. Since we don't have that lateral support, and I'm not talking about you, Robert,
Yeah.
Mr. Para there, I'm talking about us quads. Um, sometimes we need a little more lateral help, right? Or maybe we need to sit in a little more bucket, you know? Those are all things that need to be addressed in time. As time goes on with our disability, we need to look at that stuff. You know, we're talking about, you guys have already transitioned into getting some power assistant for your chairs to help you, and you've gotten past the stigma of that,
Yeah.
and you feel confident using that. Robert, I know you use a smart drive all the time,
Yeah.
and you had to get past that feeling of maybe I'm not as independent anymore, and now I
Yeah.
need a little help. And now you've got that confidence back to go more places because you
Yeah.
can utilize that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's
And
true.
and that's the same thing I'm saying about maybe your vehicle too, Robert.
Yeah.
Changing that up. And that doesn't have and you don't have to worry about, gosh, I'm not going to be able to walk as much or I'm not going to be able to stand as much. You can still do that, but maybe now you can do that in a more safe or more comfortable feeling environment
Yeah.
than, you know,
Yeah.
you're at now.
I totally understand that. It's just that the thing is just my confidence piece. It's kind of it's something different for me that um, that we made the first transition when we went from able-bodied to uh, disability. We transitioned there. Okay, I was a lot younger, so now I'm going through the second transition in my life from uh, disabled uh, to aging disabled. So I guess I know
So,
the change. I saw my dad. My dad was able-bodied. I saw him going through the transition, and he had struggled with it. My dad was, when he passed away, was almost 90, just a couple months away from 90, and he was still pretty active up until everything health-wise started affecting him. And I saw him struggle with the transition. I go, well, shouldn't be too bad for me as I get older because I've already been used to this transition on that. I'm not, there is some things change. I'm good with change, and for the most part, I'll do what I need to do. But for whatever reason, I'm doing what's happening to me now is um, I just something that I'm trying to hold on to. And again, it's a nervousness about it. Maybe I was using the word fear in the wrong context, but it's a nervousness, and I just want to be safe. I want to be able to still, I'm going to be, 70 years old in another year, a little over a year, and I still feel pretty active, and I don't want anything like this to really get in my way. But I still want to be safe. I want to do what I want to do, but I want to do it safely. And
and, and that's
yeah,
when
definitely. I think
and
that
that's when
nervousness, I think that nervousness is also a part of your confidence, right?
yeah,
If you're
no,
feeling
definitely,
nervous, you're not feeling confident.
exactly. That's exactly.
And
They're
Robert,
parallel.
I think you need to give yourself a little more credit, man, because you made one big transition of going from being part of the working class, right, to
Mhm.
transitioning into being retired. That's got to be a hard transition.
Yeah, but now
But
here's a question. So me being in the retirement environment now, okay, does that affect my confidence from my identity working, my identity doing what I was, when I worked every day, I had an identity in terms uh, of really, I kind of set example and inspired people because I was the only guy in a wheelchair, in the whole company, it seems like. So, I mean, with me not working anymore, could that have been anything to do with any confidence I have with what I'm doing? Like I said, I don't think it's a problem with self-esteem or anything like that. It's
but
just,
I can imagine, now that you're not working, you have more time to think about these things. Where
yeah, probably so. That's probably the worst thing
you were
for
just
me.
going to my office, doing my work, coming home. You weren't really thinking much, and I think you've admitted it many times. Like, I wasn't part of the wheelchair community. I didn't think about my disability. And
Yeah,
now that you're around us, you're going to the Abilities Expo. You're pretty much wrapped up
yeah,
into it.
I'm embedded. Yeah, I'm embedded.
Uh, so, and I think now you're just like, oh man. And I think, yeah, when we tend to, we're going 90 miles an hour, having a job, coming home, running the household, going back to, there isn't a lot of time. And then all of a sudden we slow down. Our body, when we slow down, it really finally says, whoa, when we were doing 90 that whole time, it took a lot of wear and tear on us, and now you're going to pay the price a little bit, body. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, and that's what happens, and our body just says, I knew this was going to happen one day, that my transfers aren't as easy, my pushing isn't as easy, my standing isn't as easy. I think Connie said it perfect, and I know Connie. What's up, Connie? Welcome. When I use what I need as I've aged, it gives me the confidence I had been losing, and it was freeing. So, now that she got what she needed to be as independent, now it was freeing. And she probably doesn't worry about it as much. And I think over time, we have to think about it as, and I know sometimes those guys can be, real thick in the head to change like that. But I think, if Gene starts using something where it's easier for his balance, you start using something for your car, I use a belt or a seat belt for balance and getting over that fear. I think the biggest point, it's going to be freeing to us, and it'll be like, okay, and make the little. You don't have to make too many big changes at once. Start out small, make them little at a time. As long as we do that, I think it's going to be easier in the long run until somebody says, whoa, 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 listen, Robert and Dean, you got to change A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you have to do it now. That's going to be very overwhelming for us.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about going back to getting physical therapy on some of my things, just to reassess my transfer skills and other things like that, and not so much for my shoulder. I just go back to say, hey, can I go through the process of my transfers and see how it is, my assessment for standing and things like that, and see how it goes from there. I don't know. I'm
No.
kind
Hey, so Robert, let me just add this. You're putting a plan in place. Okay.
Mhm.
When you put a plan in place, you're going to feel more confident about yourself. If you put like I said, I'm a very goal oriented
I am too.
person, but I'm sort of I need to put a plan in place for me to understand this is where I need to be. And with my plan in place, this is how I'm going to get to where I need to be. And that will really help you with, your mental health too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
That's a big
once
piece.
once you're feeling mentally good about that, your physical health is going to be better too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm explaining it
No, no,
correctly,
no.
but
I totally understand. Because I mean, it goes hand in hand. I've always kind of been a goal oriented person myself. And it's just that I thought I was going to be able to transition a lot easier, and it's not happening that easy for me. you
I'm,
know.
and I'm
And
sure it's not. And I
go
want
ahead,
to
Dean.
tell you one thing I really learned that has helped me in my life with all the different challenges that I've had. We all know being in a chair, we're going to come up with all kinds of challenges over time. But one thing I've learned that's helped me is to talk to myself in a positive manner. I
Yes.
learned that playing wheelchair rugby from the Olympic training centers. They told us if you screw up on a play, don't tell yourself, oh, you just screwed up. Tell yourself, hey, don't worry about that. Get back into the play.
Yeah.
Focus on doing better your next play or whatever. And
Yeah.
I
Well, then you
do
see a
that.
lot of athletes. You see a lot of athletes practicing that. That positivity. That's that.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
And it's not just an athlete thing. It's
But
a
yeah,
everybody thing.
yeah.
If
But I see a
you're
lot of
talking
athletes.
to yourself, if you're
Well,
talking to yourself in a positive way, like, look, this is my plan. I'm going to try and execute to get me to point A or point B. I really think it'll help. You're probably going to go a lot farther in your life, and you're probably going to
Yes.
achieve your goals better. If you're constantly, and I do it too sometimes. Oh my God, this pain in my body hurts so much. I don't want to transfer into my car today. So maybe I'm not going to go today. Or,
Yeah.
you know, if I'm keeping myself occupied and thinking positive about things, that helps. But, you can't always be positive about everything.
yeah,
But
because you have to be cautious about certain things too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you and it's kind of like that saying, if you're going to tell yourself 1,000 times I'm going to fall, you're most
You're
likely
gonna
going to
fall.
fall.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, man.
You know,
Yeah.
you just need to take the time and do it correctly. And, and kind of like you said, thinking about going to PT, Connie said she did and got some
Yeah.
ideas.
Yep.
I think it's, reevaluating, and I know we're about to wrap up here, but I know need to reevaluate every so often. And I think, when we're aging, taking that time when you hit one thing I did when I hit, I think it was 25, but it was really actually like 26, 27 years after my injury. I went back and got a full assessment on my body, and I went to Craig Hospital. Never been there before, but I just wanted a whole week of assessing me, and I'll probably do it here coming up in a couple years again, at the 10-year mark after since I've done it, and reassess it, get together with the doctors. What does this look like? What can I do to prevent some things in the future? What can I do to prevent things for the body? I know most of them, and I know that it's not going to be easy to tell me to do this and this, but if I do like I said earlier, if I do them little at a time, it's going to be a lot easier than trying to change everything at a time.
Yep. Yep.
That's very true. I mean, don't try and change everything. Try one little change at a time. And that goes with your seating and positioning in your wheelchairs, maybe a different way of getting up for you, Robert, with your
Yeah.
crutches, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe some exercises, some strength exercises could be helpful to you too.
Yeah. Well, before we kind of do our last little thought of before we log off, talk about our sponsors, and maybe we have somebody that can talk about our sponsors. And you want to tell us about our sponsors, Dean? Our two sponsors we have: mobility professionals and uh, urology professionals.
Well, mobility
Him on the spot there.
professionals, I know. Mobility Professionals is a local Southern California company that provides wheelchairs and equipment and urological supplies. And I've been interacting with the owner of the company for probably 16, 17 years. And they're a company that really puts the patient first. They really focus on outcomes. Where some of the big companies out there that are selling wheelchairs and stuff, you're a number to them, and they just want to get your product out to you. And that's not how mobility professionals are. They really want to help you, be successful in life. And then the other sponsor is Urology Professionals. That's the mobility professionals sister company that does urological supplies all around the country. They can ship your product to you all around the country. And you call them up and you'll get a live person every time. You don't get a phone tree. You're not stuck on hold forever. And it's people who really care. And that's why they help sponsor Live to Roll and several other organizations out there. And honestly, man, if I know if Live to Roll didn't have sponsors that help get all this content out there, and you guys are helping so many people by putting all this content out. Mobility professionals and urology professionals, they want to be part of that train, right? You're doing good stuff. You can, and if you guys ever have any questions about those companies, you can reach Bobby or Robert or Sean and get hooked up. And if I can ever help anybody with any of my knowledge that I've acquired over these 41 years, um, I'll be more than happy to help anybody. You can get
Right.
my direct line from Bobby or Robert or Sean.
Yeah. And we didn't lie. We brought on the man who, when we say, they've been hired disabled, and Dean's part of that team that is able, and his knowledge of 40 years of wheelchair and disability, bringing that to what he sells definitely helps that end user.
Yep. Yep.
Cool. Thanks.
Well,
Hey, I hope
any,
you guys invite me on again sometime.
Yeah,
well,
it's
yeah,
good.
we love it. Any last thoughts about, confidence, Dean, before we wrap up here?
You know what? I'll tell you to all your listeners, it doesn't make you a weak individual if you're seeking out help for any problems that you have. It makes you a smarter, stronger individual. You can't always take care of things yourself. So, by looking for help, that makes you a smart person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
And I think it's, every so often that, what I would wrap up is, you know, take things slowly, try not to change too many things at once, and evaluate yourself every so often and talk to others about the change that you're going to be facing. It's great that we have this little community, but it's also great when I am not live here that I can pick up and call Dean and say, "Hey, Dean, do you feel like this?" Or "I'm thinking about changing," or I do it with Sean, Robert, many people out there, and it's just great. And Paul, Paul and I get to talk all the time. He was on our chat, and it's just really nice to to be reassured by what I need to change, and that they give me the confidence to move forward.
Right on.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
Very good. Thanks for joining us today, Dean.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
thanks, Dean man. Glad you made it finally.
Yeah.
And with
Thanks, Tim.
that, next week we're going to be back on Tuesday at 3:30, 6:30 Eastern times for our live show. We'll have Sean back for those who are asking about Sean and Tom. And then also next Thursday is our women's with Brianna. So stay tuned at 3 p.m. Pacific time and 6 p.m. Eastern time for our women's show next week.
And we'll be back in a
Cool.
couple weeks and with another topic of interest, and hope you all join us again.
Take
See
care,
ya.
everyone.
Okay.